Hello and welcome to CX Today. My name is Charlie and today I am joined by Dave McDowell, Senior Technical Consultant at Enghouse Interactive. Dave, it's always great to speak to you. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, all good, thank you. And today I'm excited to speak about this topic, which is we're hearing more and more about within the customer experience industry, and that is how to integrate Microsoft Teams with your contact center. Yeah, before we kind of get into the options for doing that, I think probably the best place to start is by simply asking you kind of what benefits can a contact center gain by choosing an integration with Microsoft Teams.
Okay. Well, I think it's sort of one word, really, and that's collaboration. It's all about bringing your contact center into the rest of the business, about providing that reach into the back office across the whole organization and making everyone visible to everyone else. I mean, it's important from a number of reasons to do that. For one, it helps first call resolution. If your frontline contact center can gain access to the collaboration that Teams brings to the whole organization. I'm not just talking about video calling, um, meetings, phone calls, etc. It's the wider range of collaboration tools that Teams brings to bear. You can have teams with resources, with virtual skill groups that sit across the whole organization and not just a skill group within the contact center. It's about making your information visible and then sharing that information. So customers can talk to the front line, and now the front line can become experts in many more things because actually behind the scenes they're collaborating around the whole organization. So it's about tooling at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's a great environment. I mean, we use it not just in sort of contact center terms, but how do we share knowledge? How do we propagate things that we've learned, have what's the best practice in your organization? And that all makes for a great customer experience at the end of the day. Talking to knowledgeable people who, if they don't know the answer, at least can find the right answer or the right person in the organization. And I think that's the root of it. It's nothing, not a technology thing. It's a human factors thing about opening up your organization.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, as you say, the kind of the collaborative opportunities are incredible, and you kind of referenced there some of them. I remember going to a contact center maybe 3 years ago and seeing they had this UC system, and they had different groups. One of them was to share positive customer feedback. One of them was to for swarming capabilities with subject matter experts, which you alluded to there. And one of them was kind of for team feedback and stuff like that. And I remember thinking, oh, this is amazing. And now the opportunity to integrate that into the contact center, it's really exciting. But yeah, as kind of the title of this talk, kind of the options for doing that alludes, there are different options for how you can embed Microsoft Teams into the contact center. There's three models for doing so. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about each of those?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a sort of evolving space. So Microsoft have, got a certification program for contact centers that integrate to more accurately Microsoft phone system and then Teams on top of that. And the first one that came to market and has been around for some time now is the Connect model. And this is where we use Microsoft direct routing into Teams. So you'll have a session border controller which takes SIP calls and passes calls up to the Microsoft phone system. And contact centers integrate to the SBC for taking the phone calls and doing call treatments on them before delivering them to Teams endpoints and Teams users. But it also leverages that model connections over the Microsoft Graph API for presence. So the contact center is taking SIP calls from the SBC, but is already reaching into native Teams APIs to understand where the back office are, who's available, and even the contact centers. Are they already busy on a direct Teams interaction before we try and place the call? So that's, as I say, that's been around since sort of 2019 for quite a number of contact centers in the Teams world. And then the next integration method, which is coming more to the fore now, is the extend model. And this is using a much more direct integration approach, where we're using graph APIs and cloud communication APIs, to actually control calls that are being delivered to bots within the phone system environment. So this is the next level of integration, which many people are now bringing to market. It's been around for a while, but in terms of its sort of maturity, it's now coming into its own and to be a really usable type of integration. So this takes away that requirement to rely on the session border controllers and Teams direct routing, because now calls can be delivered into a bot, an Azure bot, by any method. So that can be Microsoft call plans, it can be carrier connect, or it can be direct routing into there. The point being is calls are placed into an Azure bot, that becomes the call conference, and through the graph APIs, the contact center controls that call, streams audio into that, does the call treatment, and then invites an agent to join the call. The final one is something called the power model, and this is just an evolving thing at the moment. And this is more of using an SDK to integrate to phone system. And the objective here with Microsoft is to allow you to embed the phone system experience into a third-party client. So using SDKs, APIs from Microsoft, things like Azure Communication Services, what it will allow us to do, and we're working on, Enghouse are working on this currently, as are other vendors, is to embed a soft phone within the contact center client, which actually is controlling and part of Microsoft phone system. So it's part of that whole phone system infrastructure, but delivered through a new client in the contact center space. So, Connect's been around a long time. Extend is coming much to the fore, and in the future we'll see much more on the power model.
Yeah, I think it's really great to hear kind of how those models differentiate from one another. I think at the time of this recording, there are no currently certified power solutions for Microsoft. Yeah, but as you say, vendors like Enghouse and a few others are currently working towards that. But I think for now, kind of one of the things that seems to differentiate kind of your offering at Enghouse is you have solutions for both the connect and the extend model.
Correct.
I think, maybe it would be interesting if you could tell us a little bit about kind of what else differentiates the Enghouse approach to this Teams contact center solution.
Well, I mean, one of the things for us, it's not just about contact center, it's about the whole product suite. It's around customer interaction. Placing calls to agents is one part of that. Omnichannel contact is also part of that. So it's not all about voice calls. It's not all about Teams. It's also about web chats and bots, chat bots, and how you escalate them into a live contact center. It's about other media, email handling, true omnichannel blended activity in the contact center. And obviously Teams is part of that, but most of our customers out in the wider world aren't calling from Teams, they're calling from other media. And so it's bringing that all together into contact centers that work very closely with Teams, but also don't forget the other media channels that are out there. And at the same time there's a wider diaspora of functionality required here. Quality management, call recording, agent scorecarding, analytics, that we can bring to bear. So it's that wide portfolio and not just focusing on just one aspect of the call center or contact center experience. One of the things from an Enghouse perspective is we've been in this game for a very long time. So for us, contact center is something we're experts in, which we're then bringing into the Teams world. We're not creating it from the ground up saying, oh, we've got this Teams thing, we need to put some contact center in there. We do contact center, we understand contact center. What we then do is bring that into this latest UC environment. So we can also be part of that journey, of that migration, because we understand all those legacy environments as well and worked in them for many, many years. So it's about experience in the domain. It's also about having a wider portfolio of solutions to bring to bear. The contact center, as I say, I mean, as we reach into the back office, it's also about providing tooling there as well. Um, because we want to do call recording, we want to do analytics, not just on the front office, but where do we hand off in the organization? What happens to a call at that point? Because that's one of the challenges people have is they take a call. Oh, I need to pass that to a subject matter expert in the back office. Okay, what happened then? I don't know. Well, that's where the call reporting, the analytics, the call logging type capabilities that we can bring to bear as well, is that whole cradle to grave experience. And understanding, because I always liken it, you've got a circle, an interaction comes in at the top, you treat it, you deal with it, you pass it on, but then you need to report and refine and understand how do we make that better for the future. And that feedback loop then goes into how do we actually manage our channels in the first place. And I like to think that's what we give, is that whole life cycle experience.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think it's really fascinating now that, all that tooling that can be added to teams that you mentioned, kind of the WFM, the quality assurance, the analytics, the fact that that can all kind of fit into a team's environment now. I think that's quite crazy to imagine the kind of growth in this area over the past few years. And you also mentioned there, which I thought was very interesting, that this integration kind of extends beyond the boundaries of the contact center. So kind of, I think my final question for you might be kind of around how will this integration help to future-proof not only the call center but the wider business too?
Yeah. Um, well, it comes back to that collaboration piece first of all that we started with. Obviously, collaboration is becoming more and more the norm, but with particularly the native type integrations with Microsoft, where we've got the call in phone system, where we've got the interaction in there, it's in Azure. The actual voice path, the audio is in Azure. We're then able to start leveraging those cognitive services on that, and as part of call recording, but also as part of the contact center. So what we can do is a load of stuff around automation in terms of, well, if we can get at the Azure transcription services, which we can start using AI to look at the content and intent of a call while it's live and start feeding knowledge articles to agents. So actually, that has an impact on the back office. You may not need them as much in terms of knowledge experts, because what their job might now be is get that knowledge down into a knowledge base, into an engine that will help the agent. But there's all sorts of things around that as well. I mean, the other medias we're handling, we can be using things like translation services. We can be taking media in real time and moving it from one language to another where we don't maybe have the skills in the contact center to support that. It's direct access to that Microsoft stack. That's the key thing here. We have the call where we need it to be to do some clever things with it. And that's an evolving place. That might just be a most basic sentiment analysis. You know, is the caller happy, sad, angry? But it can be taken a lot further than that, where we can be looking at intents. There's a churn risk on this call. How was the agent able to deal with that? I mean, agents can't always deal with churn risk, external factors here, but it allows you to much more look at trending, not just a subjective one-person view, but over a larger data set, be looking at what's going on in the organization. And that doesn't have, and the whole point about the back office reach on that is with compliance recording in Microsoft Teams, we can record any call in the organization. It doesn't have to be someone from the contact center. It can be an internal Teams to Teams call. It can be a direct call or something that was transferred from the contact center. We can apply that across the whole organization. And in some ways, we don't know what's coming. But the point is we're in the right place to get the benefits of what is coming, because where that's it. Now, Microsoft, yes, great. There are other things we can bring to bear on that as well. It's not all going to be Microsoft, but it gives us the call, and having things in Azure makes us pretty agile in terms of interconnecting to other technologies, best of breed solutions out there as well. So it's about bringing everything together, using new technology, using new paradigms. I mean, who would have thought 4 or 5 years ago the level of online collaboration that we do today. Who would have expected that we're all on video calls most of our days? Um, it was a novelty, but now it's just normal. It's what we do, and I think that comes into the contact center as well over time. Those changing communication methods, and as I say, voice great, but social media content, social media interfaces are much more important now. The demographics are changing. There's a whole generation out there who are not going to be doing this. They're not going to be sitting here talking on these video calls. Um, they'll just chat. And so we've got to get that, and we can do the same sort of analytics on that because it's just about natural language understanding. I say just, that's the big thing. But it's the same whether we're doing it on voice or text. It's understanding the intent, the emotion, the objective of those conversations.
Yeah, I think you've presented quite a powerful vision almost for kind of the context center of the near future and how much of this is becoming possible now. I think that's great, and I think you also mentioned there kind of the opportunity that a lot of contact centers have through an integration like this to access the wider Microsoft stack, and I think that will kind of grow and important as well. You mentioned obviously the access to the Azure apps. I guess there's lots more within that stack as well in terms of maybe RPA, business intelligence.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a very exciting field. But I could speak to you all day about this, Dave. It's really great to have your kind of expertise in this area on the show. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me today.
No, pleasure.
Excellent. And also thank you to everybody for joining us today. Bye for now.